Charmeleon, War Turtle,
Mewtwo, Tentacruel, Aerodactyl, Ammonite, Slowpoke. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Zach,
and this is Dave.
and we're here with another wonderful episode of Franchise Unpacked. Am I allowed to call it wonderful?
Absolutely. They've all been wonderful.
Oh, you see,
Haven't they?
Like, I mean, I enjoy it anyway. I don't know if it's couth.
Everybody else is telling us it's wonderful. My mom says it's wonderful. Back,
You know, my mom says it's wonderful too. So we have the two mom
We have
vote
two moms.
for wonderful show.
That's a AAA right there. That's like a
if that doesn't get us sponsorships, I don't know what
5
will.
stars. Yeah. Come at us, other podcasts.
Yeah, come
We
on.
got moms.
Whatever
behind us.
cereal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't have two mom approval.
Right?
I wouldn't.
They
think so,
might.
really.
They might have more moms.
They
More
probably
moms than we could ever comprehend. That's our demo, as you
Next,
can.
yeah,
We're
next
going
week
for
on
the
cereal.
moms.
It's like,
Going for all the moms. Oh, my mother-in-law loves the show too.
oh really?
Shout out to yeah,
Hey,
absolutely.
nice.
You got all the moms, I'm telling you.
It actually is really nice though, because like I get, and we've talked about this before, but it's really heartwarming when people just like send a message and like,
Yeah.
yo, I listened to this week's episode and I really liked what you guys did or whatever it
I
was.
learned something. That's
Yeah.
all, that's my favorite.
Yeah. And I don't know, just the fact that people want to listen to a couple of geeks just geek out, do what we do.
And they're which brings me to my point. They're doing a great job. Everyone's reviewing and subscribing. They're sending us messages
Yes.
on Instagram, on Facebook. Yeah, it's blowing up.
you guys are the bomb. You guys are the best.
are the best.
But anyway, today we're actually going to be unpacking I would say probably a fan favorite and just like a general public favorite.
Oh yeah.
Which is Pokemon. Oh, there it is. We can't make it through an episode without singing some sort of song.
We only do franchises with unique songs.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
Otherwise, if it's a book franchise, forget about it. We're not doing it.
No, we can't sing to a book.
And we actually have a guest with us today.
We do. Our second guest ever.
Yeah, second guest ever, but technically was also kind of our first guest ever.
He was in there.
Yeah,
Our first episode.
so ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce to you Will.
Hello.
That's Will.
He's officially here on a microphone.
Yes.
I was the not so silent co-host in the Zelda episode.
Yes. And now you can be even less not so.
Was that my title? Not so silent
Not so,
co-host?
the
Yeah,
not so silent
not so
co-host.
silent.
Yeah.
Wasn't that that was from something, wasn't it?
Yeah, a podcast I listen to called
really?
High and Mighty. His dog is often in his room. And he calls him his nearly silent co-host.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we brought Will in because he's a huge fan of Pokemon as well. He's got way more facts than I could ever imagine. I'm a
Same
huge
here.
fan of the game. It was my first Game
I am
Boy.
too. Yeah.
I mean, let's just get into it. I mean, 1996, that was the year.
Well, 96, wasn't that in Japan, 96? I could be wrong there.
That's they're saying Nintendo, it was published by Nintendo in February of 96.
Okay, yeah, and then I think it came to the States in 98 and I only remember this because when I was 8 years old, we went to this mall, which is now like super decrepit and like, I think getting demolished, but we went to Summit Place Mall, which was in Waterford, and there was this gaming store there, and I walked in and I was just like amazed. And I, of course, like I heard about Pokemon on the playground and all that, but I walked in and they had like a copy of Pokemon Blue.
Oh yeah.
And I just remember, like to this day, I remember like the box art and just how thrilled I was. Like I don't even think I waited till I was out of the store to like put that
It
in
was
my
War Turtle, right? He was on
Yeah,
the cover?
yep.
Yeah. Because I had Blue and my brother
no,
got
it was
it first.
Blastoise, not War
It was
Turtle.
Blastoise,
Sorry,
yeah.
yeah.
Blastoise and Charizard.
Yeah. My brother had Red, and obviously I got Blue because you can't.
You can't have the same as your brother.
But I found out originally it was blue or red and green in
Yes.
Japan.
In Japan, it was red and green.
Yeah.
And it had Venusaur on the cover.
Why did they? Do you know why they changed that?
I don't actually.
Really. I just.
Were they?
But you were
adding-
correct. I did look it up. It was September of 98 was when it came to the
Do you
States.
think it came to the States with blue to say like, hey, we've got a third color now, this blue, and then because green came shortly after?
Well, they
to
did.
the
They did.
States?
They did leaf green on the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, so
yeah.
when they initially remade the first generation for the Game Boy Advance, they did Fire Red and Leaf Green. So there was never a Blastoise remake.
Okay.
Cool.
Oh, we just jinx.
Well, there it is.
Okay.
I remember it coming out congruently with the TV show. They were hot to trot, I think, especially by the time it hit the States. They knew what they had. And I found out to this day, it is the largest grossing media franchise of all time.
Really?
That doesn't surprise
Beating
me.
Mario, beating Star Wars, beating Star Trek at $90 billion in total franchise revenue.
90 billion.
$90 billion. Whereas, like, I looked it up, like, Star Wars is in the $65 billion range. So if you can put that into some sort of context, that's how much bigger Pokemon is. Something that started in the mid 90s has exploded to this world.
Honestly, that doesn't surprise me though, because they have such a huge variety of content. Like they have a very successful video game franchise. They have a really successful TV series that's going on 21 seasons.
Yeah. 21?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
My
gosh.
There are over 19 animated movies. They're coming out with the Detective Pikachu movie.
I can't wait.
There's so many different subgenres of like Pokemon content out there.
Yeah, and I remember getting Yellow. Yellow came out a few years later, I believe. Kind of, and you could play as with Pikachu, and he was outside. He would like follow you around, just like the TV show. I think they were really getting for that because people were like, "Oh, I want to play as Pikachu as my first Pokemon," which really. Not a great first Pokemon to have, I remember. Because I mean, what are the first 3 gyms? It's Fire.
Oh my gosh, I don't remember the gyms.
Oh my gosh.
I know you faced Misty as the second one, right?
Misty was the second, so he'd be good for Misty.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So it goes Brock, Misty, and then Lieutenant Surge.
So it was Rock. So you get pretty much screwed up in the first gym if you were fighting Rock Pokemon with your Pikachu. Because you can't do anything with those weak attacks.
I don't know. Okay, so I got to ask though, before we really start to unpack some stuff, who was your guys' starter? Mine was always Charizard or Charmander. I mean,
I was Squirtle.
Really?
Charmander
I was
for me.
Squirtle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Squirtle. So here's the thing though, is I really do love Venusaur. I think that Venusaur is cool, and like I do like all like the plant style stuff, but I just every time when push came to shove, I was like, I gotta burn stuff. I gotta have.
It's really funny because there was a meme going around recently where it was taking screenshots from the original Pokemon series intro, and it would show like Charizard breathing fire, and then Blastoise doing Hydro Pump, and then it was Venusaur just growling, and everyone's like, "What's Venusaur doing? His best.
He's doing his best.
He's doing his best." Well, it's just you're like, I feel like the plant Pokemon were just so weak right away. There were just certain. Yeah, you couldn't do much with them, so it was a very difficult start if you were that kind of a player and could get through it.
Yeah, well, it was such a unique game for the time. I mean, and I think it was inspired by was it Shigeru Miyamoto? It was one of the big like Nintendo guys when he was a child. And I could be totally butchering that. It might not be Shigeru Miyamoto. But whoever it was their fascination with like catching and collecting bugs as a child. And they would want to go and they'd transfer that over to a video game. And I think that was the first time that's ever happened.
Yeah. And what I really liked about it was I was used to Final Fantasy games as kind of my base RPG at that point.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just leveling up your characters. It was finding new characters with unique abilities. So it was always, they added that almost ever changing element and not like locking yourself into one thing. I mean, you would have a bunch of different builds. You could my brother had a dragon build with a bunch of dragon Pokemon, or like this fire build, because you needed it. It wanted you. It's kind of one of those first attempts to be like, listen, enemies have weaknesses. You have to utilize
and you had
the
to learn
ability
it.
to switch it out.
Yeah, and you had to learn those weaknesses, and it was so intuitive to learn that. Like it wasn't like you would learn it within the game. And I think that was also kind of the spawning of being on the playground with your friends and being like, what is this Pokemon weak to? Or what is he like, what is he strong against or whatever?
It had a whole new gameplay element. To just your basic RPG. It's like, I have my mage, I've got my fighter. They can only do this, that, or the other, but they can fight every monster. Whereas this had to be strategic.
There was just so much variety and so many different combinations.
Yeah.
How many were there?
150.
50 were the first.
But then 151 if you counted Mew.
Correct.
Yep.
Which was not obtainable in the original games unless you glitched or cheated it in.
Right. Wasn't that like Missing No or whatever?
Missing No was a glitch.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember that like you would have to like sail up and down the side until you got.
So basically, you're messing with the memory addresses in the game, and it jacked a bunch of stuff up. So Missing No technically isn't a Pokemon; it was just a glitch in the game.
Right.
Because Missing No is missing number.
Right.
If you were, because I that like didn't click in my head
really?
until it's probably a couple years ago.
It's capital N-O period, like the abbreviation for number. Missing No period.
Couldn't that do something like I vaguely remember?
You could clone.
Yeah, because I remember I ended up having like some crazy high-powered.
You could clone your
Snorlax.
Mewtwo's or something too.
Using the Missing No glitch, I think it duplicates like the 7th item in your inventory.
So you put them.
So depending on how you have it sorted, but it can also spawn like level 100 plus Pokemon
And
in
this,
the wild.
and this was all before we had the internet to go to look this up. It was like you had to chat with your buddies,
Figure it out.
you know, at recess, and figure out like, okay, well, what item slot has to, you know?
Yeah.
It's
Where's
bad. I
I
still
heard this
remember
from
how to do
Nintendo
that.
Power.
You still remember?
I still remember how the glitch worked.
Oh yeah,
That's
I remember
amazing.
how you had there was that island you have to swim to. You'd have to have the Pokemon that you could swim on, like in
Yep.
the Dragonite or whatever. Now, well, kind of a little bit back to that 151. How many do you think there are now?
Oh man, I think
look it up.
I already know.
Will knows the answer.
Okay, Zach, how many do you think?
If I had to guess, I would say they're up to 790. He's giving me the up symbol. He's giving me like the thumb. Okay,
This is great for an audio media. I'm giving Zach a thumbs up. You're close. You are
Yeah, you're
wildly
very
close.
I'm gonna say 810.
One off, 809.
Really?
809
you know, I'll take that for my
fictional
second
species
guess.
Yes.
that have made an appearance in Pokemon. And Pokemon, just so everyone knows, you don't say Pokemons. Pokemon is singular and plural, just like all the Pokemon themselves. There's a group of Pikachu. That is a Pikachu.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that actually.
There aren't plural. Yeah, you don't have to delineate them.
Yep.
So like it's not Charizards, it's
No,
a group of Charizards.
That is a group of or a gaggle of Charizard.
gaggle?
However, I don't know if they have those determining
scorch
factors.
of Charizard.
like a pod of Dragonite or something.
That's what we, you know, for this episode, what we're gonna do is we're gonna come up with at least a few group
intermittently we'll throw them in there.
group descriptions. Of,
Gaggle might be hard to beat though.
gaggle.
Gaggle's a strong start.
it is.
A gaggle of Gyarados. I feel like that would be the best.
You gotta
one.
use alliteration.
A pack of Pikachu, a gaggle
gaggle
of
of Gyarados.
Gyarados,
That's awesome.
or a pod of Pikachu.
Yeah, an O snap of Oddish.
But there are 809 Pokemon currently. There were 807, but with Pokemon Go, they introduced Meltan and Melmetal, which were Pokemon Go exclusive.
Really?
But when the Pokemon Let's Go games came out, you could transfer them to that.
Oh, okay.
So technically, those are the only like main series Pokemon RPG games where you can have those two extra Pokemon.
Right. And I thought that was kind of an interesting move. And I mean, I definitely want to get to Pokemon Go, but you know, I'm actually going to save that thought for Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
Sticking with the past for a second, because you guys know us, we never delineate.
Like to jump around.
But so we had red and blue and green in Japan. Then we went to yellow.
Yep.
And then we started getting into, what was it? Gold and silver, I believe.
Yep. And then we started seeing Pikachu and Pokemon popping up in Super Smash Brothers.
Yep.
He was one of the first characters you could have. And I remember the top of the Pokemon Tower you'd fight on.
Well, and there was also, you know, they started to kind of kick out these other, like Pokemon Stadium.
Yep.
For the N64.
Pokemon Snap.
Pokemon Snap was a blast.
There was
Great.
actually a decent number of spin-off games.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't there one like where you could talk into a microphone for Pikachu?
Yeah,
think
that was
so.
Hey You Pikachu.
Hey You
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
N64.
And
which
you can
the
guess how
microphone-
well some of these games
Yeah.
went.
Oh, the microphone
Well,
on that
Pokemon
was
Coliseum
terrible.
was way ahead of its time. It was trying to do what the games now are doing, where
Right.
you can literally see the fight take place.
Wait,
and you
was it Pokemon Coliseum or Stadium? I don't.
There were both. So
Really?
there was Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2. There was a third one in Japan that never made it to the US. And then Pokemon Coliseum was Pokemon Stadium, but it was just for the GameCube.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like upgraded.
Yeah, and I remember the movie coming out, real tearjerker.
Oh yeah,
It was a real tear. Yeah, and then Mewtwo's kind of the weird bad guy.
yeah. He's bad, but isn't he also kind of like not bad though at the end? Like I vaguely remember that. I don't.
Well, kind of. I don't know. I just remember Ash turning to stone, or Pikachu. Somebody
And
turning
then
to stone.
Pikachu's
Yeah.
sad,
Pikachu
and all the
crying, and he
Pokemons are
tears
like
him.
Pokemons. I did
All
it.
the
No.
Pokemons.
All the Pokemons.
I shouldn't have said anything.
All the Pokemon are like beating each other up, and yeah.
It was brutal. Yeah, they're like bruising.
Well, and I feel
blood.
like that was also one of the first games that sort of asked you to fight not yourself. Like you were never battling somebody with fisticuffs. It was
No,
like
yeah.
you were sending out your Pokemon to do the dirty work.
do
for
your
you.
bidding.
Right.
Well, I
There was
remember,
a surprising amount of morality in it too, because
Yeah.
the whole like the antagonists in the original games were all about using Pokemon for profit and for evil and stuff like that.
Right.
And so you had to build this party of
Poaching.
Pokemon that you loved and trusted to battle this organization of evil.
Team Rocket
Yeah.
blasting off again.
And I remember hearing like a game theory, I think it was, about how like during the time of Pokemon, there was like some crazy war going on. And that's why you only see children and like old men.
And Lieutenant Surge was actually when you talk to him. It's either before or after the gym battle, but he was talking about how there was a war, and there was like a Pokemon war.
Okay,
and he was in the army.
So that's maybe what was going on.
Fighting Pokemon
because he's Lieutenant Surge.
Ooh.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I'm sure there's so much like random deep lore. That
Well, I
goes
wonder
into
if they'll get into it in Detective Pikachu. If they'll go into any of that stuff. Well, he's lost his father, the main character from the trailer, but like, to what degree?
Yeah. Well, and I think that was what was so appealing about Pokemon, especially like for the age range that we were in when it came out, is it wasn't some adult that had a bunch of money and, all the power in the world. It was a kid. It was like a 12-year-old. How old is he? 12, I think, in the cartoon?
10 or 12?
He's 10 in the anime, I think.
Okay. So so it's this 10-year-old kid. So it's the age you are, and he just kind of up and leaves.
And it's weird. Yeah, the parents are like, you've got to go.
Yeah,
that's like a thing.
For
like,
you to leave.
Once you hit 10, it's time to get your
first
Pokemon
bar
and
mitzvah.
go on your journey.
You get Poke Bar Mitzvah. And you're like,
Poke Mitzvah.
Poke Mitzvah. That's not offensive.
We intend to offend nobody.
Except Walt.
Except for Walt.
We're on to you,
Yeah,
Walt.
we're on to you.
You couldn't get those Pokemon, could you? You tried.
He tried to get
Nintendo-
his hands on Pokemon, but
Pokemon rides?
not yet.
Well, Nintendo Land is opening in Universal Studios.
Yes.
So I would not be surprised if we did see some Pokemon. It's a lot of Mario stuff, right? Of course, as it should be.
Right.
Yeah, your Mario Kart ride. There's a lot of that sort of stuff.
Right.
But, I really think Pokemon, there could be some very clever.
It's funny you bring that up because since I heard they're doing a lot of Nintendo and Pokemon stuff at Universal, I have relatives who work at Disney, so we've been a Disney family, so I might be like, hey, I'm gonna go to.
You can take a day.
I'm gonna go to Pokemon Land.
You can take a day.
Absolutely,
for sure.
you can.
Take a day over.
When Pokemon and Mario and Zelda are all involved, which oh man, I'm honestly like, not to totally divert, but I'm really excited for when we can do Zelda Part 2.
Oh yeah,
because man, I could talk about that franchise all day.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get to it.
Yeah, so then I mean, back to the games though. I mean, the games were seemingly endless. I mean, so we had Gold, Silver, and then it went to Crystal, I think.
Well, and the cool thing was, the dynamic was you could also play multiplayer. You could link your Game Boys up and you could play against, you could train your guys up and play against. And I had never seen that in any other RPG where you can build up your party and you've actually felt engaged. And if you lost, you'd have to go back to the cutting board so I can beat my friend the next day.
Right. Well, and obviously we can't forget about the trading card game either. I mean, that was huge.
Everybody,
they
every
banned it at
walk
my
of
school.
life. Yeah.
It was too big.
It got close. We were bringing in 5th grade. I was bringing my Game Boy into class because we had a substitute teacher for the half of the year, the second half of the year, because our original teacher got pregnant. So she went on maternity leave. And we had Mr. Adelstein. I'll never forget. He was the coolest guy. And he was a huge fan of Pokemon as well. He was late 20s. So he's this young guy, coming in to teach kids. And it was 5th grade, end of the year. He didn't care. He'd be like, all right, Fridays, you guys can bring in your Game Boys, and we would all trade in the back. He put on a movie for anybody who didn't want to trade Pokemon.
That is so cool.
It'd probably get him fired if someone heard.
We'll have to censor his name or something.
This was back in 1999. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Speaking of, do you remember how much of a pain trading was? Because you had to have a link cable.
Oh,
the link cable. Well, then they're like, oh, we've got the ones with the wireless little. You'd have to put
the Game Boy Color had an infrared sensor.
You put the infrared sensors. You'd have to hold the Game.
Did that ever work?
I don't think so.
I don't think it ever worked.
My brother and I, we had Game Boy Colors, and it maybe once worked.
Yeah.
And we were trying but you'd have to keep their heads touched. Literally, you had to be touching basically Game Boys.
Oh my gosh. I just remember the first time, weirdly enough, the first time that I saw, I think, any Pokemon cards was I saw a Venusaur holographic. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, my mind was blown. I was like, what is this
Those
new
holographic
thing?
cards, man.
They were incredible.
So I collected the cards, but I never learned how to play the game.
Oh, I didn't either.
That was super easy. If you never, it was like Magic the Gathering light, like the lightest.
Well, I think a big part of it is that no one else. So like my sister would collect cards too with me, or like collect cards. We would just buy packs and open them, see if we got anything cool. But no one else I knew really had the cards. So
we were all playing.
Yeah,
and we had them, and we were trading and like competing for them.
See, me and my friends, we never played. We played Yu-Gi-Oh. But that was
I had a very long Yu-Gi-Oh stint.
Was Yu-Gi-Oh, was that inspired from Pokemon cards?
There had to have been
a mix of both Pokemon and
but the thing with Pokemon cards though that I remember so much. Well, first of all, I think that my dear mother may have given away all of my holographics by accident, because I had a big tub of my duplicates and my triples. And this thing was huge. I mean, looking back, I don't know why or how my parents spent so much money on Pokemon cards for me.
Or like Pogs or anything like that. It was nonsense.
But I did have like a specific box that was just holographics. And like I had the first edition Machamp that I never took out of the case.
Yeah.
And it's probably still somewhere up in their attic, but I think she accidentally gave it away because she was like, hey, can I give this tub to like, a friend of mine's kid? And I was just old enough to not care.
Right.
And
to be like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. And I
think that's how I lost a lot of my Star Wars toys.
Yeah.
Just like
and
that
then,
regrettable like age of, you can give it to somebody. I'm feeling charitable.
So I went back to Summit Place Mall, right? It's skeezy and sketchy. And this woman sold me a pack of Pokemon cards, and I opened them up, and I had like a holographic. What's the Butterfree? Was Butterfree holographic? Okay,
yeah, I think so.
So whatever it was like some sort of flying Pokemon, and the glue that was holding the actual case together tore some of the holographic off, and I went back and I was like, this is garbage. Like this isn't, you can't sell me something that's broke. And she was like, no, it makes it more valuable. It makes
Ripping it in half? Yeah,
She literally convinced, like my mom didn't believe her, but she had convinced like me to just step away saying like, oh, it's more valuable. I was like, so if you're listening,
artist.
you random woman at the mall kiosk.
Yeah.
She's going to be back and like, I regret my decision.
Yes. Yeah. Send us an email, lady at kiosk.
Yeah, better yet,
explain yourself.
Send me a freaking holographic Butterfree. That's all I want.
I wonder how much that's on Amazon now.
It's probably like $10.
Yeah, $10. I bet there's some crazy collectible stuff.
I think nowadays the most expensive Pokemon card, I think, is a first edition holographic Charizard.
No shadow, right?
That makes sense.
Isn't that? That's like a random weird distinction. Like
they didn't want shadows in the drawings.
It's like, well, there are two versions of it. There's like a version that has a shadow and one that doesn't.
Oh, okay.
So, and a buddy of ours, John, who I definitely want to get on the podcast at some point, but he and another friend of ours, Ben, decided to start collecting again. And they went back and they were going on eBay and they were going to comic shops and they were buying like first edition starter packs, which apparently a lot of people weigh those so that you don't get one that has a holographic.
That's wild.
Yeah, but they just went and they collected it because they wanted to each collect all 150 cards. And John actually got a first edition holographic Charizard in one of his packs. Like,
that's awesome.
Opened it up and he just got it.
Oh man.
For a $10 pack. And those things are going for how much? $700 online?
Probably.
Around there, I would imagine.
Like that's wild. Well, that's a return on your investment right there.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. But you just got to hold, if you've got them, it's like Beanie Babies. Yeah. Sit on that. Yeah. Sit on it. Mm-hmm. Especially hard copies of anything. It's just, that's wild.
Keep it mint. Oof.
Mm-hmm. And we're hitting the point where I fell out of Pokemon. I mean, it started Diamond and all like XY, all this crazy stuff, as most anime things do, or like games in this kind of vein do. They just go nuts and go crazy and market everywhere. But how long are you guys are still playing the games basically?
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I think that it definitely became oversaturated, and this is still technically, I guess, the past of the franchise, but getting us closer to the present. When what was it, X and Y and Sun and Moon, those came out and I played them, and here's the thing, they were good. Like, they weren't bad games, but
it's kind of hard to really screw up an amazing formula. It's like, I can't get mad at top-down RPGs like that, right? With random, like, no matter what,
you're not doing anything wrong. But the thing that started to really get to me is part of what I loved so much in the first Pokemon was they dropped you in this world and you had to figure it out. Mm-hmm. Like they would teach you, they gave you like a 2-line tutorial.
You got to pick one of these 3 and go.
Yep. Yeah. And you had to figure it out. When I was playing, I got Sun out of Sun and Moon, and the tutorial was still going full force to the point where I was only playing for a minute or two in between like cutscenes and dialogue. The tutorial was going for 2.5 hours. Yeah. And I stopped.
What are we doing?
I stopped the game. I was like, I'm done.
Did it introduce a whole new fight component, or did it any new mechanics that are
I think that's just kind of how gaming is nowadays, is that
they hold your hand.
It's really hand-holdy.
Yeah.
I usually say on average there's about an hour of any new game I get But I take that back. Spider-Man was really good in the sense that literally you jump out of the window in a cinematic and within 2 minutes you're swinging through the city.
Yeah.
And they force you. That's the best way. And it was a difficult start. I like to have a little trouble. If you're gonna tutor me, throw some stuff at me so I can really utilize the mechanics.
Right.
Not Pokemon. I've been playing these games for how many years? I think I know.
Right.
But that's a result of gaming hitting the mainstream, though.
Yep.
I think
There should be an option. I think it skips tutorial.
I agree.
All games.
But I mean, how many of those games are designed around story elements that happen during the tutorial?
The intro
you know what I
is,
mean? And that's how Pokemon
Major
Sun
plot
was.
points.
And I don't mean to, crap all over Pokemon Sun, but even with X and Y, I felt kind of the same thing. And it didn't do it when they, and we'll get to this, but when they released Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu, they didn't have that big of a tutorial. I mean, there was still a little bit, but it wasn't.
I actually kind of like the way they did the Let's Go games because they had prerequisites for you to enter some of the gyms to kind of like, we'll use Brock's gym, for example. It's a rock type gym. And so the prerequisite to enter is you need either a water or a grass type Pokemon. Which unless you, and because you won't even have Squirtle yet. So there's no way to get a water Pokemon before you even get to that gym, but it's teaching you what rock is weak to.
So it's kind of one more step in the process of holding your hand. Whereas I remember in the original game, it's like you go into Brock's gym, it's like, oh, you have little or no effect.
Yep.
You find out the hard way and you're like, oh, well, I guess I got to go figure this out.
Handed to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, and not that there's anything wrong with that because that does open it up to maybe a younger audience. But at the same time, like I when I was young, I liked being able to experiment and fail and learn.
Yeah, that's the only way in my book, especially in an open world environment that encourages you to do that. Like it's kind of a double-edged sword, I think. Piggybacking off what you said, it helps get people who might not be familiar with what works with what in the game, like how to fight certain types of Pokemon.
Yeah.
But it also can spur in those younger audiences to go back out into that field and just grind away, which is something that I think a lot of people don't necessarily want to in games. The grinding, they shouldn't be playing an RPG, but grinding is just as important. Or finding utilize our game that we made, guys.
The way that they changed grinding though in the new one was you had to go and actually like catch Pokemon. And that was how you leveled up. And you could battle trainers. Now,
wait, so your Charmander wouldn't level up on its own?
No, like your Charmander would level up when you would go and catch a Pokemon. All of the Pokemon in your party would get EXP.
So they fight it, bring it down, you catch it, they all get experience. If you catch it.
You don't fight it. You just catch it. They took random battles out of the new one.
Yeah, so Let's Go, when you're running around the overworld, there are Pokemon that just pop up in the grass.
Because it was inspired by Pokemon Go, right?
Yes, it's like Pokemon Go, the RPG
version.
Yeah.
So there's no random encounters in the grass. You just run to the Pokemon you see in the grass then you want to catch. And then when you catch them, you get experience for your whole party.
Okay,
but there are also
it's far more of a constant mini game going on to level up in an area. And are they reappearing like they're
they're constantly spawning and cycling and stuff.
And it was fun though. I actually did enjoy that. I mean, I kind of missed battling. Like
I think there should be both.
I agree.
I think if there's there could be special Pokemon that pop up, be like, I can fight that. I can capture it for my own.
Or let us fight it, weaken it, and then catch it.
Yeah, well, that's how they do the legendary battles too.
Oh, really?
You have to. So like Snorlax, all the legendary birds, and Mewtwo, you have to battle them first, and then you get the opportunity to catch.
Oh, okay. See, I like that. I wish that they would at least give you the option to do that because there were some Pokemon. The way that the mechanic works is you have to kind of like flick the the Switch remote. And it's not that accurate in some Pokemon.
Did you get the one with the Pokeball?
No, I didn't. I almost did.
Attachment?
I almost did. But it didn't feel that accurate. And I found myself just waiting until a Pokemon was right in the middle and trying to time it out. It would have been awesome if they just gave you the option like, hey, if a Pokemon's moving, fight it until it's not moving. And then try to catch it.
Yeah. Knock it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they'll probably develop to that next.
Well, I don't want to dive too much into the future of the series, but they are making a new mainstream RPG game for the Switch.
Oh, really?
Which will be the first mainstream Pokemon RPG on a console, not on a handheld.
Ever.
Yes.
And I think it'll be everything we've been wanting.
Generation 9. I believe.
That's
So,
nuts.
and nothing's been announced for it.
Pokemon,
Yeah.
But I am curious how
1,000.
they are going to deal with all
Yeah,
that.
We're
well-
gonna have online and stuff,
And we
that'll be
got it
nuts.
while we're still kind of in the present. Pokemon Go. Oh my
Huge.
goodness!
Might be one of the largest phenomenon.
Yeah, I mean
Like,
everybody was.
I don't
playing
even.
it.
Oh, yeah.
800 million users.
Was it really that many?
worldwide.
Yeah,
Wow.
people that you didn't even know knew what
That's over
Pokemon
twice
was.
the population
Yeah.
of our country.
Yeah.
Was playing this game.
I went to a wedding when that was like really big, and there was like a group of people standing around because there was like a Butterfree that was waiting to be caught, and I was like, "Oh, cool, I'm there."
Don't you
know?
remember those videos of people in New York just running out of buildings into Central Park because
yeah.
like a mythical or like a legendary Pokemon appeared?
Yeah.
There
What?
were you would see it looked like a zombie movie. You just saw in the middle of it was nighttime, and I just remember herds of people running into Central Park with their
Oh my
phones out,
gosh.
yelling about Pokemon.
There's a similar story, albeit on a smaller scale, that I was actually a part of.
Really?
I was at my local park with my now roommate and a couple other people, and we were just walking around. And all of a sudden, you hear down the street, you just hear someone yell, "Dragonite!" and we all just ran towards where this dude was yelling from,
Wow.
and we went to this side subdivision. And lo and behold, there was a Dragonite that spawned, and there were probably 100 people that were there.
Wow.
in Royal Oak, when I was working at Mesa, that you would, especially in the spring and summer when the doors were wide open, people would be sitting eating their meals, and all of a sudden everyone would look down at their phones. 5-6 tables would all get up, leave their stuff there, run outside. And
What?
then you'd see all these other people running down the street.
Oh my gosh.
Because areas like that were hugely, they
Yeah.
like really shove them in.
Well, and it was just crazy because I remember there was one day when I was hanging out with Will and a buddy of ours, and we decided to go to OU's campus.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because I think we even saw a couple of other people there doing it.
Yeah.
But we walked like 6 miles that day.
Oh.
And we were happy to be doing it.
Yeah.
I think that was the craziest thing, is that like
be
the
outside.
general population was just loving life and
Yeah.
being active,
Being
and
happy
everyone
with
was
everyone.
so happy.
It was
just
a nice
catching-
moment. It
Just
was-
catching
Honestly, it
Pokemon.
was one of my favorite like random blips of history because everywhere you went, if you saw somebody on their phone, you could give them like a "What's up?" Like you know like
it got to the point where Jijan and I were walking. We would take my dog Castor to the park every other day, or like
Yeah.
go walk around all day with him, meeting people, like running around. We would wear bandanas with our color. Remember, like
Really?
it got to the point
Yeah.
where we were color coding. People have stickers on the backs of their cars.
Yeah,
from
my
the
buddy
gym still.
has a shirt and a hat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can.
yeah.
It's nuts how much of a everyone had it. Even the people who were like, "That's for nerds." Like they were like, "Yeah, I got it."
Yeah.
because it was let alone it was an app that was available
it
and
left
readily
as-
accessible.
it left as soon as it came though. I mean, it was like it was there, and
never-
then I felt
it's
like nobody
still
was
there.
playing.
So I have a theory of why it died off as quick as it did. I think that there were some features that they have now.
With
that
fighting, you can fight
so
people.
so there weren't PvP battles.
Okay.
And they hadn't introduced raids yet.
You couldn't
so
trade.
You couldn't even
Anything.
trade.
You couldn't even
Yeah.
trade.
So you couldn't battle other people. You couldn't trade, and there weren't. There were gym battles, but there weren't raids.
They should have called it Pokedex Go.
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
just
that would've-
called it Pokedex.
Like, fill the Pokedex.
Yeah.
So I
and,
think the features that I want to say the tryhards, maybe like one step below the tryhards, but the features that should have been in the game, I think at least from launch, weren't implemented until a year and a half, 2 years after the game came
Way
out.
too late. My interest had waned.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too was it was just a battery killer of a game. I mean,
Well, there was a whole new
portable
industry of
battery
portable
sales
batteries.
skyrocketed.
It became a thing.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, it was huge.
There was a T-Mobile promotion, like T-Mobile gives free things away on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
That's like their thing. And right when Pokemon Go came out, they were like, you can get X% off this huge portable battery just for
my
Pokemon.
They were
gosh.
literally promoting it for Pokemon
Oh,
Go.
and
They
they did
were
a thing
marketing it.
They did a thing where you could add a thing to your account where anything related to Pokemon Go
Yes.
data-wise didn't touch your account.
Yes.
really?
Yep.
It didn't
Wow.
eat up your day.
So any data used by Pokemon Go wouldn't go towards your data.
Wow, it amazes me that it got to that scale where it was just.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
it
a
was global.
huge-
I don't think they could have ever realized
No.
because now we've seen so many attempts. I remember the closest attempt that everybody was super crazy about was the Harry Potter one, which turned out to
Yeah.
be a complete
There's a Jurassic
disaster.
Park one too. That my
and a
buddy still plays.
Ghostbusters one.
Yeah.
And it's just, but it's like you're like, guys, this is literally
So-
more of the same.
I guess my thing is I would have loved it if they maybe had set it up where, sure, like use the GPS and all that. Don't have to have your phone open to get the steps. and don't do the flick to catch thing. Let me like encounter a Pokemon and battle it as if it was one of the RPG games.
Absolutely.
That was another feature they implemented recently was
Really?
you can you don't have to have the app open. It will just natively run in the background of your phone and it'll count your steps and hatch eggs and stuff like that for you.
Okay.
But that's another thing that should have been in there from
Absolutely.
launch.
Right. Yeah.
But I think so Pokemon Go, the game, so Niantic, the company that made it, actually the whole mapping and GPS and like hotspot system, it was based off, they pretty much reskinned one of their earlier games called Ingress.
Yes, I had heard about that. Yeah.
So what they probably did was pitched it to Pokemon. They said, hey, we have this thing. It's not going so hot. We can reskin everything to be Pokemon and just throw it out there.
Right.
Which is probably what they did.
Nintendo was like, sure.
Yeah, perfect.
Do it.
And I wish, I mean, they really hyped it up with that first commercial that they had for it, where it was like, it showed
it was
raid,
people in like
you know
New
what I
York
mean?
City all getting together to battle a Mewtwo, and it was it was right as the surge of like augmented reality started coming out.
Right.
And I
That's
wasn't
true.
quite sure with what they were getting at in that
Right,
commercial. You're like,
right.
okay, I get you're saying that we will literally have to run around.
Right.
And we will see Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like, what are we getting at?
It was, I mean, it was so cool though when that, I still get that warm fuzzy feeling about when that
And
happened.
this is a little slight digression, but back to Nintendo Land, like we were talking about. Excuse me. The Mario Kart ride is rumored to have an augmented reality that does not require you to even wear glasses.
Really?
But you will be able to grab items and throw shell. They have
No way.
They say they have several patents already in lockdown. They want a experience where you can throw a banana peel behind by just you doing it, and everyone will see it.
That's incredible.
I'm so
know.
excited for
I don't know how
the
they're
future
gonna
of technology.
I
Because
know.
before
It's
you know
wild.
it, like 20 years from now, they'll probably have the 27th generation of Pokemon where you
Right.
can literally
Well-
go like throw on glasses and go outside and catch. Like,
I don't
and
think
see
you
them.
need glasses because I think that there will be so many drones in the sky. Nintendo will just have to hit a switch, and we will physically see holograph
Right, there's gonna be
projected
something.
Pokemon on the street.
Yeah.
We won't, or they'll have cameras set up on every street corner. Like that will be the new
Right.
thing.
So insane.
Projectors will become.
Yeah.
Once that technology really lands.
I mean,
Where you can project something into nothing but air and don't need like a sheet or mist or anything.
I wonder though,
It's
how
gonna
far
get
off
nuts.
is that really? You know what I mean?
Well,
I
think
wouldn't be
about
surprised
think
10
about the
years. They've already got
advancement.
Tupac.
So the
Yeah.
So the 2D Pokemon games, the very first Pokemon games came out in 1996,
Right.
and
So-
think about all the advancements.
true, yeah, I mean, that's
up until
23 years.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
And it only gets exponentially quicker.
Yep.
Right.
So I think that, yeah, like we're seeing the end of like flat screen TVs and curved TV. They're literally waiting till we can start making projections. Like even that you start to see it. I was watching the Oscars yesterday and they do the thing on the red carpet where you see the person walking and then they stop and freeze them and then the camera zooms in and you
Yeah.
can do all of the angles around them.
Yeah.
Well, they're still slightly moving. It's like a matrix shot.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you don't even need more than one camera to do that.
Yeah,
And
well,
you can
that's-
edit it on the fly. Like everything's on the fly now.
Yeah, and that's, I think that like as the future of augmented reality and 3D technology. I mean, look at the Nintendo 3DS. You don't
I'm
need
surprised they
3D
don't have
glasses.
like a VR game, well, Nintendo I think has gone the motion portable system, but like there's no HTC Vive Pokemon
Right.
game.
Well, I
Or
think
like
Nintendo's kind of scared to go back into VR because the Virtual Boy
Virtual Boy,
was
yeah.
like the biggest
Gave
flop
everybody
in Nintendo
bleeding
history.
eyes.
They tried a little too soon.
Yeah, but hey, because they had such a success with their motion control, then they
Right.
kind of wavered because they didn't. You had to. I remember when the Wii Motion Plus came out, I was like, guys, you're still releasing Rumble packs. What
Right,
are we doing?
right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't need any more attachments
Right.
for my system.
I mean, you can't say they aren't caving to what the norm is for nowadays, like Sony
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and
that's true. I mean,
Microsoft. Like every console release has been innovative in some way.
I wouldn't be
Right.
surprised though if the Switch wouldn't get a capability of that augmented reality camera where you can point it at stuff and you start to see things.
Oh, I'm
like,
sure. I mean,
Yeah.
and I feel like they've already kind of implemented a few designs into the Switch that could do that. But
Sure.
the other thing that I wanted to kind of hop over now, just because I want to make sure we're doing all right on time, that we
yeah,
can
we're
talk
good.
about the future of the franchise, which we have a movie coming out.
We do, starring Ryan Reynolds.
it's going to be really interesting to see how that does.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
excited. I have high hopes.
I do too. I think
so.
that's,
I saw a screenshot and that kind of proves that people making this movie know what they're doing. Where it showed a bunch of like advertisements for like Pokeballs and potions and like things that were like really, really well thought out.
Yeah.
So the people making this movie like know what they're doing,
care.
but I'm still maintaining a fair amount of skepticism.
Well, I just love that level in detail when they zoomed in on Psyduck's eye. This pupil is just so but it looks, it's natural. It's not as, these are CGI characters, but they are they have flesh. It's CGI fur, which I've seen Pikachu with fur. I'm okay with it though. I'm okay with all the design. I think the creepiest one was Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime.
Yeah.
But it works. I really think
he's
it
super
works.
meant to be creepy.
Well, and it knows what it is. It's not trying to make you believe anything. That
I think this is a PG-13 Pokemon movie. This might not necessarily be for the 8-year-old anime watcher.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
it could be a little darker.
They're gonna see it though.
I mean, his dad's a cop who dies. He's a detective, so there's homicide has occurred. Like this movie is. They're establishing that he's a police officer, like that right there. Stakes are raised.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely more than we've seen in the past. Anyway,
and something's going on. Isn't the plot that they're trying to isn't Team Rocket or some organization trying to get the Pokemon for no goodery?
I don't recall.
Yeah, I don't know
sure.
what the, and that's the thing is like, I haven't watched the trailer enough times, and I honestly, I don't remember a whole ton from the trailer. But I don't think they revealed too terribly much about it.
Well, how do we feel about a kid being able to hear Pikachu? What is the dynamic of, because Meowth was originally the only, but he could speak to everybody.
Yeah.
There was a backstory for that. I can't recall what.
How
it was,
are they?
Though.
They're just defining it as like the same magic that allows these animals to even exist. It allowed him to connect with it or something. I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will go into how he has the specific ability with this one.
I think my fear with it is there have been so many movies within the past 5 years that are just our childhood in a nutshell. And these big directors take over and they get these, multi-million-dollar budgets.
Michael Bay,
we're looking at you.
Michael Bay.
And they just kind of blow it. I mean, even the new Power Rangers, like it wasn't a bad movie, but it just didn't feel, it felt like they tried to make it
Turtles.
so...
Ninja Turtles, Transformers.
Yep. And I just hope they don't do that for Pokemon.
Yeah, it's all, I blame half of it on the allowance of certain designs to be approved. First, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, what in the hell? What are we talking about? Those look like nightmares. Give me the Muppet suits. Give me the Jim Henson suits. Okay?
Absolutely. Those things were awesome.
Not these terrifying Battletoad creatures.
I wonder what would have happened if they did Pokemon like that.
That's what I was getting at. This Pokemon movie is that, but they did it the right way. If you're going to ground something with, if you're going to Who Framed Roger Rabbit it with the Uncanny Valley both being there and not with human characters, you've got to make a decision. And they said, well, we could probably go super dark and make these animals look real, or we stick to original design. And what would this look like if you made a mime Pokemon in our world? And I think they nailed it.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad they didn't jump the gun too early as far as, because they were pumping out animated movies left and right. But as far as taking a step towards the real style, they could have done it.
Mario Brothers. We could have had a Mario Brother movie on our hand. Another one. Oof. Right? Think about that. Like a dark dystopian Poke world.
From the Mario movie when he's like, this is going to be impossible, Luigi. And then he's like, it might be improbable, Mario, but it's not impossible.
Right.
And I remember I was like, Mom, what does improbable mean?
And then she went, shut up, Zach. And she threw something at you. We're gonna say
the Mario movie.
I know I got into it, but we got to save that for our Mario episode.
Oh, absolutely.
The Super Mario Brothers movie is it's a whole episode in its own.
Yeah.
But I really think if you're going to do a live action Pokemon, don't ruin my childhood.
Yeah.
Well, don't. Yeah, and it could have gone like the Dragon Ball Z movie way, or the Avatar movie,
or even Speed Racer, where it was extremely close to even like the stylized, like zooming by, like all the cinematography was like in anime, where it was like that was almost too much of a also the CGI in that it looked like you were on.
But as far as like real world adaptations based on animated series, I think this is probably chalked up to be one of the best ones.
It's looking good anyway. Well, and the nice thing too is it's all people. I mean, it seems to be anyway. And I'm going completely off of the aesthetic of the trailer. But I'm sure that a lot of the people working on this are going to be closer to our age range, and they did grow up with this.
It's a great time. It's a great time to be in your late 20s and early 30s because that's what everybody markets to. Who has the money? 35-year-olds.
Yep.
That's where the age range you want to be for everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that it will. And even Ryan Reynolds, that kind of brings me to that point. I think he's the kind of actor who A, can call shots, and B, commit to scripts he likes.
Yeah.
And is a fan of and wants to get made.
Do you guys know that movie's coming out in 2.5 months?
Yeah,
Really?
soon.
Is that soon? I
May,
don't know.
Yeah.
May 10th.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be a big year. Big year for big
be
summer.
awesome.
It's always a big summer.
Now let me ask you
Yeah.
guys this though, before we start to wrap it up here, what would you guys want to see as far as the future of the franchise goes? Because we know we have this movie coming, we know we have another video game coming. What could they innovate? What could they change? What could they?
You mentioned the video game. Well, what do you want to see in it?
So I think as far as like the franchise in general, I would like them to not necessarily stop making new Pokemon altogether, because they have this formula they're kind of doing right now where they typically release 2 mainstream games where they introduce new generations, and then they'll do a remake and then 2 new games. But I think after Gen 8 and they're working on Gen 9 right now, they need to like pump the brakes, because there's going to be approaching 1,000 Pokemon.
Would you like to see a full reset to 150? OG it. With maybe 160 with some...
Well, they kind of did that with Let's Go, and I liked that though. It was a different.
They really brought it back.
It was the same game, but they introduced new graphics and enough new mechanics to make it interesting.
My question with that kind of a game: you don't need 800 Pokemon if you're not capturing and training each one of them like you used to.
I think what they could do, which would be really really cool, and they could do it with this new game. Who knows? But there has never been a Pokemon game. Because obviously you can trade from the previous games to the new ones, but there's never been a game where you can catch every single Pokemon in that game.
Oh, really?
Oh, where your friend has to buy the other version so you can get the other.
No, I mean like take the newest games for example. Is Sun and Moon the most recent?
Sun and Moon, I think.
Well, even Pikachu and Eevee have to have a difference. There's no reason that those two are different.
But I mean, so you can have the 2 sets or whatever. But I mean, like, so in Sun and Moon, there's 800 Pokemon up to that point. You can't catch all 800 Pokemon in that one Sun and Moon game.
Oh, you have to actually go to a different...
So they have the new Alolan Pokemon, and then there's like a couple sprinkles from the earlier generations, but they don't have all of them. I think what they should do is release like the ultimate Pokemon game where every single Pokemon up to existence is in this game, and you have to try and catch them all.
That would be awesome.
And if they don't do it right away, it's DLC. That's easy, especially with a Gen 9 game like that. You can just free DLC, start dumping all those Pokemon. And I'm sure they're like, hey, here's an original 250 we're releasing. Every quarter, you're going to get another 50 Pokemon or something, and more levels, more
shocker.
gyms.
I know all of our listeners are going to be totally shocked to hear this from me, but I would love it if we could actually see a Pokemon game that was on the scale of like Breath of the Wild, where, you know, you might have like a Pikachu that like Pikachus are only able to be caught in this section of the map, and you have to climb a tree to go, you know, I mean, not that Pikachus are really Pikachu are really
Pikachu tree.
A pack of Pikas.
A pack of Pika.
Are you know, not that they're known for climbing trees, but just that you can go to an area of the map and that it's just open and you can actually discover new Pokemon just totally in the wild.
That'd be neat. Yeah, and I'm hoping that it's also I'm always a big full multiplayer open world
Absolutely,
and it's one of those games where it's like you don't have to play with someone. You can play with people if you
almost
want.
Like an MMO.
Yeah, exactly. You can run into them. You don't have to.
Yeah.
So I actually just did a fact check. So they had Sun and Moon, and then they came out with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which added
and then Super Ultra Sun.
Yeah, which added a couple extra features and stuff like that. So Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon also opened up the Pokedex a little bit, but it's still, you can only catch over 400 Pokemon in those games. So that's still half the...
That's only... that's
still half the total Pokemon that you can't even catch. So I think like the ultimate Pokemon game would be really,
what do you then have to do to get all these?
You have to. So there's a global trading system.
Yeah.
Where they have it implemented in a lot of the 3DS and up games, where you can trade up to any other game, but you have to get them from outside sources, either games you played previously or friends who had them or whatever.
I mean, it's a racket. You know exactly what they're doing.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's brilliant. They're like, how can we somehow make more money?
I think that's why we'll never see one that has the Ultimate Collection.
But I think
DLC.
the way Dave brought it up is interesting, though, is like you have Gens 1 through 3 on this new game, and then maybe the new generation, and then every year or whenever they release DLC with a brand new region and these new Pokemon.
You retcon it it's all in the same world that you've been playing in these 20 some odd years. Now the lands you're finally able to travel to different countries and get those sun and moon Pokemon.
Right, yeah, because there's
Johto,
Johto, there's Kanto, there's Unova, there's like go to all the different regions. That would be super cool.
And that's what I'm saying, like in the Breath of the Wild
sea,
sense.
get into the air, go underground.
In Breath of the Wild, you can travel to all these different areas of Hyrule that were otherwise blocked off before. Make Pokemon like that. Make it so that you don't have to go on this super linear path. Yeah. You can find, a random...
You feel the division of temperature. Like you see that clear...
Oh man, that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
Well, they Breath of the Wild, but Pokemon.
When they did, I thought that one of the only cool things about the new Call of Duty was the multiplayer map, where all the old maps are in like a giant open. They're all tied together. Like Nuketown.
I did hear about that.
You go down the street to Nuketown, you run into another map from one of the other malls. So it's their I think it's their battle royale, and I might be mistaken, but it's a lot of old locations, but all brought together, like how Rockstar did with Grand Theft Auto.
Yep.
They are starting to throw old map details and locations into their new games.
That?
I when I saw the old Grove Street from GTA 5 or from San Andreas into GTA 5, my heart leapt. I was like, they literally nailed it. It's perfect.
Every single detail.
They built it into a new, ever expanding, inclusive world.
Sure.
That they're not saying, because I remember in GTA 3 into GTA 4, it was both Liberty City, but completely different.
Right.
You had to, but now they're games are starting to go back. I would love to see a Zelda game, which Twilight Princess did I was waiting to see like ruins from Ocarina of Time.
Right.
You ran into the old busted down Lon Lon Ranch. And was that Twilight or?
Oh no, you're Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And it's you can almost stand. You're like, this was the barn. This was the house.
Yeah. And I mean, this
is the track.
It does link back into Pokemon here in a second. I promise.
Yeah.
But there was a YouTuber. I think his name is like Zeltic or something like that. And I'll have to show you the video. He actually like lays over the map of Ocarina and shows how it all fits in.
That's cool.
It's so good. Yeah. But if they did that with Pokemon, that'd be incredible. Like, give us
because we all have those. Like the entire map from Gen 1 at least burned into our memory.
Yeah, and like let us run around in that. Even if, and I honestly, I would not be opposed to it if it was pull from Breath of the Wild, make it a post-apocalyptic, 300 years in the future.
There's more Pokemon than man now.
And there's been like some war, and there aren't that many people, and places are overgrown.
And there could be brutal Pokemon that are bad, that have either were created by some, or that are just vicious, and you don't want to deal with it.
You can't catch them. Like
it could be a whole other even race of you don't call them Pokemon necessarily. They could just be. Then you're starting to get other
crazy.
That's when we have to hold the door, Hodor it.
See, I'm really hoping that Nintendo actually listens to the fans of what they want from this new game, because when they went to announce a new Pokemon game, everyone immediately was like, oh, I hope it's a new RPG for the Switch or their new console or whatever.
Yeah.
And they announced Pokemon Let's Go, but then they had a thing at the end that they like threw in after the fact saying, we know you want a new Pokemon game, we're working on it. So I think they immediately heard all the people who wanted a brand new game. Right. They were like, oh, we're not doing that.
Well, it's like large bags of money knocking on your door. It's like when then you've got Activision Blizzard, who don't listen to the fans, who don't do anything, and then fire 800 employees and release a mobile Diablo game.
But you have a phone, right?
Right.
Don't you guys have phones?
Everybody's got a phone. We're Activision. When I heard about that merger, I was the most confused. I didn't even realize Activision was still around.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of tomfoolery going on in the video game industry, which we're gonna have to dive into that tomfoolery next time, you guys. We ran a little bit over, but we appreciate you guys sticking with us.
It's a big topic.
It really is, and there's gonna be a part 2. We don't know exactly when, but man, I just love
call
this
it
franchise
podcast
so much.
Or franchise Unpacked Blue or franchise Unpacked Sun and Moon.
Yeah, exactly. Ultra
franchise Unpacked.
Yeah, Ultra. I want to thank Will for joining us, being our second guest. It was fantastic.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. Dude, very knowledgeable.
Anytime. You're always welcome on the show.
Absolutely.
I'm always hanging around.
Oh, yeah. I mean, half the time you're just like kind of here.
I was on the couch during the Mega Man episode, just hanging out.
Hanging out.
Yeah, we didn't announce that, but now it's now the world will always know. You'll never know how many episodes Will's been here for.
Guess, and you might win something.
But thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate it. If you guys can do us a solid, I mean, you'll hear this in the end announcements anyway, I'm sure, but If you can rate us and review us on iTunes and just check us out, on
share those posts. Facebook is a big sharer.
Helps us out a ton.
Tell your friends and family. It's awesome.
And we actually do have some announcements coming up soon. I'm just going to tease them as announcements for now because we don't know exactly how soon.
Big announcement.
But
another mini episode. Expect that.
Yeah, there's definitely
be doing another mini.
And that was fun to do. Those are just quick ones. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you guys next week.
Take care, everybody.
See ya.
Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. The next franchise we'll be unpacking is Indiana Jones. But in the meantime, feel free to drop us a line with any questions, comments, or future episodes at franchiseunpacked@gmail.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify, and be sure to share so we can keep these episodes coming your way. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.